Hey, what's going on guys? This is the Tech Taurus, and in this video I'm going to show you how to run an Ubuntu VM in VirtualBox on macOS. So I hope you like the video and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hey, welcome back guys, so let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is just load up my browser and I'm going to navigate to the VirtualBox download page. I'll put the link in the description below. As you can see, when I get to this page, there's multiple download options to choose from. But for this demo, I'm just going to be installing the macOS / Intel host version. But for me, I've already got it downloaded. So now I've started the download, I'm just going to go ahead and cancel it. Cool, so now you've got that downloaded, let's go ahead and get VirtualBox installed. So when I installed this, I just installed it with the basic defaults, the default settings. Once you've got it installed, there's a couple of things you're going to want to do to make sure all the functionality in VirtualBox works correctly and your virtual machines have access to host hardware. So you're going to want to go into your security and privacy settings and make sure your virtual machine has access to different host features. So as you can see, I'm going to go through each one of these, and as you can see for my VirtualBox installation, I've got things like microphone and file sharing enabled. And what this basically allows you to do is to share resources from your host machine to your virtual machine. So if I want my virtual machine to access the microphone that's on my host machine, then I'll go ahead and enable that. And it's the same with file sharing. If you want to share files between your virtual machine and your host machine, then again, you're going to want to make sure you've got files and folder sharing enabled. Okay, perfect. So now you've got VirtualBox installed and you've configured some of the security and privacy settings in macOS. The next thing we're going to want to do is go ahead to the Ubuntu website and download the Ubuntu ISO. So this ISO image is going to be the base image that our virtual machine will run off of. So go ahead and download either Ubuntu Desktop or Ubuntu Server, whatever suits your requirements really. For me, I'm just going to go ahead and use Ubuntu Desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and hit download, but as with VirtualBox previously, I've already got it downloaded. So to save us 20 minutes and watching a download, I'm just going to go ahead and cancel this download and we'll skip ahead to the next part. Okay, so next I quickly want to cover one of the common pitfalls people run into when they install VirtualBox, and this is the result of people not reading the requirements page. On the requirements page, it clearly states that you need to have XCode installed. So we're going to go ahead and download and install that. You can install it directly from the Apple App Store, which you can access from the shortcut bar on macOS. If you're installing XCode just for the sake of running VirtualBox, then when you install it, just install it with the default options. Okay, perfect. So now we've got VirtualBox installed, you've configured your security and privacy settings, you've downloaded the Ubuntu ISO, and you've also installed XCode. Let's just go ahead and give our device a quick reboot just to make sure that everything's clean and tidy to use when we launch VirtualBox. Cool, so now I'm going to go ahead and open VirtualBox. So this is it open on my MacBook, and as you can see, I already have a virtual machine there called Lab, but don't worry about this, this is just a throwaway virtual machine I use for demonstrations. So I just wanted to quickly cover a really nice feature of VirtualBox that you may be interested in, and this is the ability to take snapshots of your virtual machine state. Now I find this a very, very useful feature, especially when creating a new virtual machine. I often start by updating the virtual machine's operating system, and I'll go ahead and install all the basic tools I need. Then, once I'm happy with the machine's state and how it is, I'll take a snapshot of it. So what this will allow me to do is once I've completed any work or a new task on that virtual machine, I can just restore the virtual machine back to its original clean slate and it's ready to go again for my next task. So let's go ahead and create our first virtual machine. So the first thing we're going to want to do is give the virtual machine a name. And then we're going to tell VirtualBox where to find the ISO for the virtual machine you want to create. This will be the location where you downloaded the Ubuntu ISO earlier on. Once you're happy with everything, hit next. Now we're on the next screen. On this screen, you can configure a new username that will be used for the default user account on the virtual machine. I also strongly consider changing the default password from ChangeMe to something else, more secure. So the default password is ChangeMe, and I'm quite happy with the default username as well. So I'm just going to leave all of these settings as default because later on I'm going to delete this virtual machine after this demonstration. Another nice feature is you can directly change the host name of your virtual machine before it's created. This saves you time as it means you won't have to go and do it post-install. So if you're happy, let's go ahead and press next. Okay, so on to one of the last steps now. We're going to go ahead and configure the hardware requirements for the virtual machine. So I've downloaded a 64-bit image, so I should really allocate more than 4 GB of RAM and a minimum of 2 CPUs. So for my virtual machine, I'm going to give it 6 GB of RAM and I'll give it 4 virtual CPUs because I have 16 available. So if you're happy with your hardware configuration, go ahead and hit next. Okay, so this is it. We're on the last screen now. So on this screen, we decide how much storage and what storage medium we want to give our virtual machine. So if this is your first virtual machine and you're not too familiar with the different storage types, then it's probably best to just run with the default, which is a virtual disk, and this is what I'll be using. So I'm just going to give it a default storage size of 25 GB, but you may want to give it less or more depending on your requirements. One of which might be if you're running, for example, Ubuntu server, you're going to have significantly less software installed, so you're probably going to want less storage. But if you're running Ubuntu desktop and you're going to be installing a lot more software and you're going to be doing a lot of other stuff with files and data, then you're probably going to want significantly more storage. So now we've configured our storage, hit next, and we'll review the configuration. And if we're happy with the VM's configuration, then we'll just go ahead and press finish. Hey, now we've finished configuring the virtual machine, VirtualBox will go ahead and automatically start up that virtual machine, and it will begin the installation process of the operating system. So in this demo, I've chosen to install Ubuntu Desktop, and that is going to now be installed to the virtual disk storage medium, which I selected during the virtual machine's configuration stage. So for Ubuntu Desktop, this will take about 15 minutes to install and complete. And what I'm going to now do is skip to the end of this installation to save us some time on the video. So I'll see you in the next step. Awesome, so the virtual machine has now rebooted itself, and this signals that it has completed the installation of the operating system. So congratulations, you have just finished setting up and installing your first Ubuntu virtual machine in VirtualBox on macOS. So if you like, you can now power up your virtual machine if it hasn't done so automatically, and go ahead and log into your virtual machine using the login user credentials that you set up when you configured the virtual machine. So just to end this video, I want to cover a common problem with VirtualBox running on macOS when people are starting up their own virtual machines. So if, like me, you are getting a black screen when starting up the virtual machine, then you may need to adjust the graphics controller in the virtual machine's display settings. So if you are using more than one monitor as well, or are doing anything graphically intense, you may also want to increase the amount of video memory that is allocated to the virtual machine. Hopefully this will resolve any black screen issues you are experiencing when starting up your virtual machine.
So that concludes the video, and I really hope you found it useful. If you did find this video useful, please hit that like and subscribe button below. I'm the Tech Taurus, and I'll catch you in the next one.